All right, guys. Hey, good morning. Welcome to the FFL Sky's the Limit call. My name is Stephen Yee. I'm your host today. I'm actually out in Jersey. So the beauty of this business is you can literally be anywhere, especially when you do it virtually, right? But I have a good friend of mine, Mr. Henry Payne. I don't want to steal his thunder, but man, he's got a great story. I had a chance to meet him a few weeks ago. We were in Denver and just got a chance to hear his story and how he's been killing the game, right? In my opinion, with when he got started and the accolades he's hit, he's one of the top agents here at FFL. So, Henry, you there?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Stephen.
You got it, man. Hey, so before, most of us on our team, haven't probably had a chance to speak with you or know you. Can you kind of give us your background and, how you found Family First Life and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so I was at a practice company for about 2 months prior to this. Was a captive agency, and like everybody says, you kind of take out a calculator and do the math, and you realize you're in the wrong place.
Right.
So about 2 months in, took my calculator out, did the math, realized I wasn't in the right place, but I still waited an extra month just to make sure that I didn't do my math wrong. I didn't do the math wrong. I realized that I was just kind of shooting myself in the foot. So went full-time Family First June of 2021, and I've been just trying to work my hardest since then.
So from June to December, what did you write? How many families you protected?
Yeah, I protected 412 families.
So you went Hall of Fame in 6 months. See, this is the best part.
Yeah, I don't want to steal Jake's thunder.
You know what I mean? But that's what I'm saying. It's like, I say that because like so many people get started now, right? They get started in like April, May, and they go, can't go Hall of Fame anymore. I'm like, no, farthest from the truth, right? Yeah. I'm like, proof is like you, Jake, like you guys got started middle of the year and went Hall of Fame. Like it's just a work ethic thing. It has nothing to do with anything else, right? Yeah. And that's the beauty of this business is, like you said, like you took a calculator out. You were able to go, hey, what I was doing there was this. What I'm doing here is like 5 times more. Like, let me go get compensated, right? So when you got started last year, when you went on your Hall of Fame run, how much did you write face to face versus virtual?
Last year was 100% in person. I think I maybe sold one over the phone, and it was like on accident. Like it was, I was very, very intentional about being in person.
Why did you make the transition and learn the virtual stuff?
A little bit of probably the two things were honestly ego. Like I knew that I was bad at it, and I hate being bad at things, and I wanted to just at least make sure that I knew that it wasn't something that I couldn't overcome. So I wanted to just get the ego out of the way and make sure that I was good at something. And then on the other side, there's obviously like a lot of benefits to being able to run every aspect of your business from your house. Being out of the field, in a position where you're at, everything is out of the field. But if I can, help get myself out of the field 2, 3, 4 days a week, just to spend more time with family, or to be able to pour into agents more because I'm not driving around enough. Right. That there's obviously huge advantages to that. So it was a little 50-50, and like my intention going into it was I kind of prepared myself. Hey, this is gonna bite for 2, 3, 4 weeks. I'm gonna not be protecting a lot of families. I'm gonna be spending a lot more on leads, but if I can kind of crack the code and figure out how to make this work, I know that this is going to be, a very, very valuable tool that I can add to my toolbox.
So you're talking about your learning curve. How long was it? Like how bad were you? I mean, you went from being a Hall of Fame producer to trying to learn the virtual stuff. How long did that take? Like how bad was it the first few weeks? And like, when did you actually get it down?
Yeah. So back in July, there was a 2-day period where I actually tried to sell virtually, and I got 150 instant internet leads. Didn't protect a single family off of that. So that was my learning curve. I would say it took me 6 months to learn how to sell virtually because I was preparing while I was out in the field. If we look at just based on in February when I decided to sell virtually, it would be it would be inaccurate to say that I was an overnight success on that. It took me
Right.
6 or 7 months of learning how to structure appointments, learning how to take control, learning how to overcome objections, to actually be able to go out and then, protect 69 families my first month virtual.
Wow.
But, once I made the decision of, this is something I'm going to take seriously and commit myself to, nothing special, right? We have virtual sales trainings all over YouTube. We have websites for it. I literally just took the scripts, read it word for word, did what I was told, trusted the system, and put in the work.
When you do your virtual stuff, are you doing it on Zoom? Are you doing it on, telesales? Like what type of virtual stuff are you doing?
100% over the phone, unless somebody specifically is requesting Zoom. For me, I would prefer to do it over the phone if possible. And so I'll always give them both options.
Right.
And this is something that I kind of got from Brandon Kitchings, and then I kind of changed it up a little bit. But I'll say, hey, we can do this one of two ways. We can either do it over the phone, just like we're talking right now, or we can hop on a Zoom call. And then what I did was I added a couple of extra steps to that Zoom call just to make it sound less favorable. So I said, if we want to do a Zoom call, I'm going to email you a link. You'll open that on your computer. You'll create an account. You'll have your webcam set up. You got to have a good internet connection, which are like, it's not a lot of steps, but,
Right.
To the average person, they're going to think, well, I don't want to do all that. I'm just going to choose the phone call. And so now I'm giving myself the credibility of saying, hey, if you want to see who I am, I got nothing to hide. You can see my face. We can do this face to face,
Right.
or we can do this way easier option of just doing over the phone. And I've only had one person actually want to do a Zoom call after that.
I love that, dude. So, you had to go through a learning curve before you protected 69 families, a month writing the virtual or telesales route. But how big was it, your face-to-face, your Hall of Fame run, that basically was able to teach you the structure of the in-home, right? Because I feel like there's so many similarities between face-to-face and virtual, but there are a lot of differences too. Can you kind of dive into that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would not, can someone start right out of the gate and go virtual and find success protecting families? Absolutely. Do I have the time, patience, energy, and most importantly, the cash flow to keep funding leads to be able to do that? Absolutely not. So for me, starting in person was, I wouldn't be, talking to you today about virtual had I not started in person first.
Agreed.
Everything that I do in person is easier because if I'm showing you 3 options or, whatever I'm saying to you, I can look at your body language. I can look at the way that you're talking to your spouse. If you guys have to talk about something, you talk about it right there. You don't get up and walk into another room and turn the music on and whisper. So I'm a part of the conversation and I'm working with you to figure out what is the best option here. And on that same token, like you can look at me, you can look into my eyes and know that I'm genuinely trying to help here. I'm not just out fishing for a big commission. I'm really trying to look for a solution that works for everybody. Over the phone though, and this to a lesser extent on Zoom, but definitely over the phone, like you get none of that. You don't see me, you don't see the look in my eyes. You can't really genuinely know that I'm really trying to look out for what's in your best interest. Really the only relationship that you have with me is through my voice. And so you have one modality to try to build trust and rapport with somebody rather than, the way that I look and the way that I'm using my gestures and the way that I'm pointing on the paper and everything like that. Everything just boils down to essentially my tonality and the way that I'm presenting the information. And so that was something that I think I didn't expect right at the start, but looking back on it, it makes a lot of sense. The old saying goes, what you say is not as important as how you say it, but it's, 10 times as important, or it's 10 times as relevant when you're doing something over the phone or on Zoom, because that the voice is everything.
Dude, and while you're talking about that, I was just thinking about like 93% of communication is nonverbal, right? So if you're literally doing telesales, you eliminated 93% of communication because everything is only verbal. So you got to be really good. Talk about, because when I saw you do that training in Denver, you were talking about, virtual and telesales is possible, but it's a lot more difficult, right? Like if you hate dialing, virtual is not going to be the way for you because that's all you do, right? Can you kind of dive into that?
Yeah, I think I got a lot of new agents that I'm working with where they say, hey, I really want to go virtual. And I say, awesome. Well, let's look at your numbers for your last dial day. How many dials did you make? And 9 out of 10 times it's not enough dials and they're not booking enough appointments. And I say, okay, so do you really want to go virtual? Because literally 6 days a week, 12 hours a day from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m., you're on the phones, you're dialing. So the thing that you hate the most and the most difficult aspect of the business for you is the phones, but you're asking me to transition to doing 100% of just this thing that you hate the most. And so for some people, you can like that would be a good thing. They want to attack the thing that they hate the most to, hone that skill set to get better at it. And that's great for them. For a lot of people though, I think they see virtual as like a scapegoat and they say, oh my gosh, I can, I'm going to be able to produce just what everybody else is producing. I'm going to be able to protect just as many families as I was out in the field. This is going to be easier. I don't have to, put on a button up now. I don't need to drive around. I don't need to do travel trips. And they're doing is they're focusing on the positives of virtual, which there's infinite positives on virtual. And that's why it's such an attractive thing. But what it really boils down to is, can you consistently dial, 100 to 300 unique leads per day, every single day, 6 days a week, 52 weeks a year. And that's what it comes down to. Me, I can't. So I went all in on virtual just to like really hone my skill set there and make sure I understood what I was doing. And then now I'm switching to hybrid because I can't do that 52 weeks a year. I did it for a sprint just to really shorten my learning curve on that, and make sure that I understood what I was doing and how to structure and things like that. But I can't do that 52 weeks a year. I'm way too extroverted to do that.
Not only that, dude, it's like, there's something about seeing clients that's just awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like just being able to have that relationship with the client, sitting over the kitchen counter, like belly sales, like it's just nice to be able to meet with people too. And so for me, it's like, I say that because, recently we had 2 folks that were strictly virtual now blend the hybrid model, right? They go 2 days in the field, 2 days virtually, and they're loving it. And the reason why they're loving it is because it's just not them and a phone attached to the ear or in the AirPods or, a headpiece all day long, right? Like yes. They get to actually see a client smile and know that, the job they're doing is great. And they get a hug when they write a policy and they walk out and take a picture. Like that's the fun part, but the pros and cons of virtual and face-to-face is like, yeah, we got to, get in the car and, drive, an hour or 2 or 3 one way and there's gas, but it's a lot easier. Or you can stay on the phone all day tucked in your room and be on the phone, like you said, for 12 hours a day, but hate your life because you have no human interaction. You know what I mean? Like There's a balance between that. And that's why for me, it's like, I'm a big fan of the, on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, go run, face to face, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, go do it virtually. Like, I feel like that's such a healthy blend for clients personally,
Absolutely.
I mean? So, what's your phone script, or what does your structure look like when you're doing the virtual stuff?
Yeah. It's for me, the way that I approach it is it's essentially the exact same structure that I would have on a regular call, on a regular in-home appointment, just very abbreviated because it's going to be extremely transactional. And I know that I can build a little bit of rapport. So maybe you don't instantly hang up on me when you hear a number you don't like, and I can try to work with you on that. But it's going to come down to either I show you an option that you like, and we're gonna get a policy in force, or you're not going to like it and you're going to hang up. It's very, very transactional. So I'm going to respect my time as well as their time, and not have an hour and a half appointment before I get to the part where I say, all right, and this is how much it's going to cost. Usually, in most situations, I'm getting to the cost within about 15-20 minutes of that phone call, just to make sure that I understand whether or not this is going to be kind of worth pursuing further. On the actual initial phone call, though, again, something I'm stealing from Brandon Kitchen was, what's the point of, like, you have them on the phone, why are you going to get them off the phone just to get them back on the phone? It just doesn't make sense. So I'm always going for a one call close. And the way that I'm doing that is, just regular phone script. And then when it gets to time to book the appointment, I say, now, Stephen, I know that all these carriers you're looking for is going to be prescription history and some light criminal background. Probably takes like 15 minutes to get through this. You got time to just knock it out right now, or do you want me to give you a call back a little bit later?
We can do it now.
Okay. And at this point, what I don't want to do is just go into a one call close just because you're trying to get it over with. So right. I'll challenge them on that and make sure this is actually a good time. So are you sure this is good? You're not going back into lunch right now. Like, your boss isn't going to call you. Like, you got time, you're in place. And I'll just ask them a couple of questions, make sure, like, they have to convince me, like, yes, this is the ideal time to do it. And then I'll go into booking the appointment and really just saying whatever I would normally say inside a house. So whatever you guys are saying in your in-home appointments, stick with that. I think you don't need to overcomplicate things too much, but just do it with a sense of urgency, or at the very least do it with a sense of, not beating around the bush for too long, because they know that this is going to cost something, and you're not, Stephen Yee, the wonderful looking guy who's sitting across from them. You're just a voice on a phone that needs to give them a number.
That's why I'm like, I would have went virtual, because half my clients would have been like, this guy sold me insurance. No, I'm just kidding. Cool. So, but you said something that was money, man, and I think, like, everybody skipped past it, dude. It is transactional when you do it remote. Like, there's no other way to say that. If they don't like you or they don't like the price, they're just going to hang up. Like, face to face, you get a lot of grace. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to feed you, they're going to give you water or soda, or, some clients are going to give you a beer. Like, they're going to be able to tell you about their dog. Like it's just not the same. Right. And like, when it comes to the virtual stuff, what I'm starting to learn really quickly is it is transactional. It is based on price. It is a quick conversation, and there is a market for that. But for me, it's kind of like what you said. I want to be able to have enough tools in my tool belt. I want to have all of them. I want to be able to do it face-to-face and virtual. I want to be able to teach. If a brand new agent joined our team and goes, hey, because of my medical conditions or because of my work schedule or whatever it may be, I want to do it virtually. Cool. I can teach you because I've done it. Hey, I want to do it face-to-face. I can teach you because I've done it. Right. And so, sorry, that's the best part about what we do, man. What is your toughest objections that you receive doing virtual stuff?
I think you hear a lot of the same objections. I think probably, I don't think I hear any objections over the phone that I don't hear in person, but I think the hardest one to overcome over the phone is anything that has to do with, like, a lack of credibility. Like, who are you, or what authority do you have to be having this conversation with me? Like, or basically just making sure they're not getting scammed. And that can come in a myriad of different ways. But typically what I do is, when I'm booking a one call close, or, like, I guess I'm not booking it, but when I'm transitioning into a one call close, I don't ever pause and say, okay, but give me 1 second, I'm going to send you my state license and things like that. 9 out of 10 times in my experience, like, that's not something that they need. They're like, if they're ready to just move forward, they're ready to move forward. I'm not going to slow up the flow that I already have going by providing them with a bunch of information that they're not asking for and they don't sound like they need. Now, if I'm booking an appointment, and I always say, Hey, by the way, I'm going to send you a text message in just a second. It's going to come from my personal cell phone number. It's going to have a picture of my license, my business card. I'm also going to send you a link to the .gov website where you can go and look up, my state license, and you can see that I'm not some crazy person that lives, in China. I'm here in the States, and I'm the right person to help you out with this. So I send them just my state license, and then if I ever get any sort of pushback on that in the future, I try to just squash it and overwhelm them with more personal information than they would ever want. So I send them like a picture from Wells Fargo that is just like a piece of mail that has my name on it. I send them a picture of my driver's license. I send them a picture of my dog. Like I send them just so much personal information. It's like, dude, why? Like, I don't need a picture of your dog or like what is this? And the point is just to like kind of make them feel stupid for even asking. And at that point, again, about 9 out of 10 times from there, with a combination of just overwhelming them with that personal information and then just, having the right posture and tonality, I'm able to overcome it. But that's a pretty difficult one for me to overcome. If at that point, if I send them all that information, and they're still a little hesitant, it's pretty difficult for me personally at that point to find a way to work around that. That's been the biggest hang up so far.
How do you overcome the social and banking objection that most people have?
Say that one more time.
How do you overcome the social and the banking objection that most people have?
Yeah. So social, there was actually, so the one that I just started using, God, who am I stealing this from? I'm stealing this from somebody. I think it's Gage Peer. I can't remember. But hey, when you're working through it, you skip the social on wherever it is on the application, and you say you're a U.S. citizen, right? Okay, perfect. And what state were you born in? Excellent. And your social, and just the flow of that sounds really natural. So I've been trying that out for like the last week, and I really like it. But typically, the one that I've been doing, especially when I'm going with America, is before I even show prices, I say, hey, Steven, you're familiar with HIPAA, right? It's that privacy law. You go to the doctors, makes it so, they can't sell your information on the black market. Okay. So the carrier that I want to look at, they want to do what's called a HIPAA prescription check. Basically, they're going to want to pull a copy of your medical records and just kind of see what's on there. It's not going to approve us instantly, but it's either going to do one of two things. It's going to instantly decline us, so we don't need to waste a bunch of time here. Or if we pass this, then it's going to give us some guaranteed rates. And I don't know if we'll qualify for those rates, but if we do qualify, then that way I'm not like doing a bait and switch. I'm not showing you $20 a month and it's going to end up being $150. So I want to make sure I pass that prescription check first. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay, perfect. To do that, like I said, they need to pull a copy of your medical records. What's your social? And then, it makes sense why I'm asking that.
Right. You're narrating the process.
Exactly. Yeah. Just giving them lots of information. I think if you don't preface it with anything at all, and you just say, all right, let's fill out this application. And then you just kind of, in their mind, what feels like out of the blue, you just say, hey, what's your social security number? They're going to be kind of taken aback. But if you're, again, like structuring your appointments, you have control, and you're giving them an explanation for why you need this very sensitive piece of information, lets their guard down a lot.
Right.
And then on banking at the very end, hey, who do you do your banking with? Key West. Okay, perfect. And I'm Googling, Key West, routing number, Arkansas. And I'm pulling it up and I say, okay, perfect. I got their routing number pulled up here. Could you do me a favor? I want to read this routing number to you and make sure that we have the right one. Can you grab your checkbook and just see? And so they'll go grab it. And I read the routing number. Okay, perfect. And what's your account number? And they've already got it right there. And, that's probably 60% of the time they just read it, like they don't think twice, and they go, oh, what do you need the account number for? And I'm like, well, this is what we're going to attach to the and then I just kind of, again, it goes back to just making them feel silly for even asking, like, well, right. how else are we going to pay for the call? Oh yeah, that's right, I got to pay for it. Okay, that makes sense.
Right. That's so good. Being able to Google the number and then being able to, hey, verify that routing number that you have with me. They're already reading numbers. 121-000-358. Oh yeah, that's one I got.
Exactly.
What's your account number?
They've got it in front of them. They're reading the numbers. And then the objections, or like the way that I respond to objections for both of those is, again, stealing this from Brendan Kitchings. Basically everything I do, I steal from other people, which is great. That's what I love about this
That's
business.
the best part, Robert.
But I practice a lot of takeaways. And so if they give me any pushback on the Social Security, or if they give me any pushback on the account number, I get like really serious with them. And I'm like, hey, so this is going to just like full stop us right here. Like, we're not gonna be able to continue. This is like, I understand where you're coming from, that's a sensitive piece of information, but this is like a non-negotiable requirement that I have to legally like perform my job correctly. Right. So, and then I re-explain why I need whatever piece of information it is, but I let them know, like, regardless, like, is this something that's important to you? Yes. Okay. So it doesn't matter what company we look at. Doesn't matter which broker you talk to. Doesn't matter if you do this today or 6 years from now. Like, these are required pieces of information. There's no wiggle room on this. There's no insurance company in the entire world that is ever going to give you the coverage that you're looking for without your social. So if you want this, then let's do this now. Otherwise, you don't actually want this. But this is not like, there's no debate. I don't argue with them. I don't like try to convince them, like, hey, like, you're going to give me this information or the call's going to end right now. But like that's it.
I love that. That's so good, dude. What's your closing rate when you do it? Like when you sell virtually? Just curious.
When they pick up. So for me, my biggest setback is answer rate on booked appointments. Whether it's a one call close or if like they actually pick up on a booked appointment, probably like 70%.
No way.
But my answer rate is atrociously low. That's what I'm always trying to work on, is making sure that people actually pick up the phone for the appointments.
Right. So you get them on the phone. It's about 7 out of 10 times they're going to buy.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's pretty good. How many dials are you making on a dial day, or, on one of your virtual days that you're not in the field?
Yeah. When I'm really going full steam ahead, I'm probably making, definitely no less than 500 dials. On a really full day where I don't have a lot of distractions, I'm usually cranking out, somewhere around 1,000.
Wow. And what type of leads are you working? Are you working everything, or like what type of, are you working CRM stuff, mortgage stuff? Like what are you working?
Yeah, for me, I'm definitely like biased towards mortgage leads. Like if I could only run one type of lead for the rest of my life, it would be a mortgage lead. But I'll dial anything that has a number on it. I've been doing strictly instance and new internet lives for the last week now, just because where I'm running, that's what the availability has. Some mailers are still coming in. So yeah, I mean, I definitely have like a preference or like an affinity towards mortgage leads, whether it's 1 month's, new mortgage mailers, mail drops, anything like that. But if it's got a phone number, like I'm going to give them a call. When I was in, so I just moved to Portland a couple months ago, but I was in Central Oregon for from June to December of last year, and so that whole that whole Hall of Fame sprint, I was in the middle of nowhere, and there was about 20 to 30 instances that would come in per week. But then other than that, there was about 1,800, I don't know, like a crazy amount of aged mortgage protection mailers. Right. I got really good at running those. I love those. Those are my favorite leads, man. Yeah. $2.50. And you dial the phone a lot, but if you get somebody on the phone that is interested and wants to talk to you, they're great.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that.
Can't speak highly enough about them.
Right. Cool, man. Hey, so if any of you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or the Q&A section, because we're going to start, for me, it's like, I feel like there's so much info on this call that I'm like, you should definitely apply that. But everybody's in a different part of the business. So like, if you have any questions regarding something, please hit the chat or the Q&A. Henry, talk about like with you leading your agencies, right? Like you're teaching people how to sell now. What is your step for them when you get them onboarded? Are you going, hey, I want you to do a little bit of both, or hey, I want you to go, face to face first, or virtual if that's where they want to go? Like, what is your route or path for them?
So if they're If they're asking me on what they should do, it's 100% of the time it's going to be do in person for your first 100 appointments, and then we can assess from there and see where we should go. If and that's if they're kind of like asking for my guidance on hey, I'm not really sure which way I should go. And if they're coming on board saying like, oh, I'm only joining this to do virtual, like in person is not an option. Say okay, let me tell you what to expect. And what I try to do is scare them away from virtual, and that's what most of the times when I talk about virtual, I feel like I'm trying to scare people away from it, because there's 1,000 videos out there on exclusively the positives of virtual. Everybody knows what the positives of virtual are. But the reality of it is dialing the phone from 8 to 8, 6 days a week. And that, it can't be understated how difficult that is to do on a continuous basis, with consistently over time. So I try to just really paint a picture for like how grueling that's going to be. And if at the end of that conversation, they're still on board, then I hype them back up and I say, awesome, well, this is going to be great for you. Because if I can go through that process, and I'm not like exaggerating anything, and I'm not making it sound worse than it's going to be, but I'm letting them know the brutal truth. Like, hey, this is going to be really difficult. Your lead bill is going to go up. You're going to have days where you don't protect any families. You get hung up on a lot. You're going to feel helpless. But if you can figure out how to sell virtually, this is going to be, an amazing opportunity for you. And if they're willing to go through that, then I'm all in. I'm definitely ready to help them out. What I don't want to do though is just somebody that has no sales background, has no experience in the insurance industry. They have very, very minimal work ethic, and they're really just trying to find the easiest way to do this business. And they think virtual sounds a lot easier than in person. That's the type of person where I'm like, dude, you really, really don't want to do virtual. This is not what you think it is.
Yeah, I love that, man. Especially because they want to take the easy way, right? The easy route. And dude, it's like, honestly, the easy route is face-to-face, but it's nobody wants to do the drives, the getting no-show. But it's like, and they're like, it's so much easier to get no-show when I'm at my house. Right. But you're also on the phone for, 12 hours a day. Right.
I would rather get no-showed on somebody's porch 100% of the time. It's the most infuriating thing, because if I'm knocking on their door and they're not there, I don't know, something about that, I can accept that. But like, if I'm calling them, I don't know what they're doing. I guess if I'm knocking on their door, like I know they're not home, so they're doing something else. But if they're not picking up their phone, psychologically for me, I don't know if they're looking at the phone and saying, I don't want to talk to this guy. I don't know if they're I don't know what's happening. And so I always just assume it's me, and I take it really personally when they don't pick up the phone. But if they're not home, they're not home. They're busy.
Right. How do you respond to, I already got it taken care of?
Perfect. Do you get the whole mortgage covered, or they get you just a little policy?
Just a little policy.
Okay, gotcha. Was that all you could afford, or they said that's all you could qualify for?
I don't know.
They just got you a little policy?
I think so.
Is that what you want? Did you want a little policy?
Like $100 a month.
Gotcha. Were you trying to protect it, the entire mortgage, or were you just looking for something small?
Hopefully I could protect the entire mortgage.
Gotcha. Well, that's weird. They just gave you a small policy then. Hey, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure that you got all the state options, make sure that we're able to find you something you qualify for. I'm not a genie. I'm not going to make you any, blanket promises that I can cover your whole mortgage for 8 pennies a month. But what I want to do is just make sure that I'm able to see if there's some good options out there for you. If we find something that's going to get you more coverage for the same price point, awesome. But if we find that you've actually got, the best policy that you can qualify for, we're just going to keep that in place and you'll be good to go. I know, like you kind of went through already, all they're looking for is prescription history. Since you already have a policy, this is probably going to take like 5 or 10 minutes. You want to just knock it out now, or you want me to give you a call back a little bit later?
Yeah, we can knock it out now.
Okay, cool. And then just, I go at that point, what, if they have a term product, I'm going to assume that the underwriter did their job correctly and they're just going to like qualify for term coverage. If they have a whole life product, obviously I got to go through that underwriting process again to see why they went whole life instead of term.
Right.
But yeah, and I'll kind of just, vet it out from there and figure out, who's their coverage with. Is it graded? Is it, is it an ROP? What's going on with that policy?
Right. You know what the best part about it is when you're role playing with me, man, and I don't know if you know this, or if you even know you're doing it on purpose. You sound like a disgruntled state employee. You sound like you hate your job, which is the best way to do it. Because I was just doing a call the other day with another group, and I was like, our sole goal on the phone is to distinguish ourselves as not being telemarketers, right? Like Trey has a line when he calls you, he's like, Henry, this is Trey. I'm not a telemarketer, right? Like I don't do that, but some people do. But what I'm saying is like telemarketers or customer service reps, when you call them, they're overly happy. It's almost disgusting. Henry, this is Steven. I'm getting back to you about the form you sent back.
Yep.
Like, dude, that's really weird, right? Telemarketers don't call you 3 times in a row. They only call you once. They'll probably call you once that day, right? If we triple dial clients and we call them morning, afternoon, and evenings, they're getting 9 phone calls from us. And that's normal, right? So like everything we can to distinguish ourselves to be not a telemarketer. Like for example, they call at 9 a.m. We start calling at 7:30. You know what I mean? So I say that because the best thing you can do is to be very, not monotonous, but like you're very bland and vanilla. That's the best way to do it. So,
and something I say a lot on the phone too. If I'm getting the sense that they feel this is like a salesy thing and they're just trying to avoid the whole pitch, I'll say this at the appropriate time where it's like, hey, Steven, look, I got to be completely honest with you. Like, I could care less if you sign up for this. Okay. Like, I just need to see what you qualify for. You're a smart guy. The numbers are going to make sense to you. You're either going to like it and you'll want to get it, or you won't like it. And I swear to God, you're never going to hear from me ever again. Okay. I could not care less what you do with this information. My one and only job is to make sure that you know what you qualify for. Is that fair? And I say it just like that, like, and I wouldn't say that to everybody, but for the right person, they're going to hear that. And, I'm not going to say that to 80-year-old Mary Jo, right? But I'll say that to, 40-year-old somebody that I have a little bit more of that like rapport with, where I can be a little bit more blunt and candid with. So that way they know kind of where I'm coming from. Like, and again, it's just to reinforce the point, like, what would a DMV, I'm always thinking this to myself, like, what would a DMV employee say? Like,
100%.
Dude, I could care less if you get your driver's license today or not. Just fill the paper out, dude. Move along.
Right. Oh, that's exactly who it is. The DMV employee. Like, you have to hate your life to work at the DMV. Like, that's
and then the other example I always use, and this one I use pretty frequently, is just imagine like you're the IRS and you've been told that you have to go audit somebody, right? And if I call you up, like IRS is a pretty boring job, but it's also very serious. And so if I call you up and I'm like, hey, Steven, I'm the IRS, I got to audit you next week. Oh, that's not a good time for you. Oh, I'm so sorry. Like, yeah, no, we can put this off until next month. Like, totally fine. I'm so sorry. Like, that's not how the IRS works. The IRS calls you and they're like, hey, Steven, we're going to audit you on Saturday. And you're like, well, I'm at the hospital on Saturday. Like, all right, Steven, I'm going to do you a favor. I'll audit you on Sunday. Okay. Just be there at 8 a.m. Have your papers ready. Like, you don't want to be audited. I'm the IRS. I don't really care. Like, you're going to get audited. And obviously, like, that's not the verbiage, but like the tonality that an IRS employee would have is like, this is not up for debate. Like, I'm going to come and audit you, or in our situation, like, I'm going to get you this information. Now, after the audit's over, after I give you the information, we'll go our separate ways, and that's totally fine. But like, I have to complete my required portion of this job.
I love that. It's the posture. You know what I mean? It's the posture of going like, I'm going to do this because you made it an inconvenience by filling out the form. So now because you filled out the form, I got to do this. Right.
Yeah.
One of the questions that popped up in the Q&A was, what if they're 75 years old with COPD and the home is 360,000? How do you cover the entire mortgage?
Yeah. So that starts before I go into health. What I never, ever do is make promises before I go through health. Because if I've just talked to this person for 15 minutes about, I saw they had great income, and I jumped the gun. And a 75-year-old with $360,000 mortgage, that's going to be an insanely expensive policy. But let's just say hypothetically, they made $60,000 a month and they loved insurance, and they were ready to buy a big policy. And so I jumped the gun on the medical, and I started selling them this really big, we're going to get you term coverage, this, that, the other. And then we go through health and they can't qualify for it. Now I've just shot myself in the foot. Now we're going from, a term product that is going to get them their full mortgage covered for, I don't know, $1,000 a month or whatever it is, to a whole life stack where, we're going to get maybe a fifth of that coverage, and it's going to be 3 times the cost.
Right. Well, when you call someone on, like, they already have it taken care of, and then you go, okay, cool. Did you get the whole portion or just a little bit? And they only have a little bit because they have COPD. What do you do in that situation?
Yeah. Well, and so it would be the same thing. So when they just have a little bit, so there's 2 separate questions there. So your question is, if they have COPD and they just have a little bit, I'm going to make sure it's not a graded policy, or it's not modified. It's a level benefit,
right?
Something like what Aetna offers. Because most of the time when you run into that, the underwriting wasn't done correctly, and you can get them a cheaper premium with a level benefit with Aetna. Now, on that same flip side, if it's a brand new appointment and I'm running through it, and then I find out they want all this coverage, but they have COPD, I'm going to say, hey, look, Steven, if you die tomorrow, what happens to the house? And let's just pretend like, this is real Steven. So you're married, right? Like, is wife going to want to stay in this house? Does she have enough support in this area, or is she going to want to relocate closer to family where she has more support?
Right. So you're turning it, you're doing a senior mortgage no matter what.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And then I just, from there, I go into, and I verb it, or I word it as critical period protection.
Right.
But basically what I say is just, hey, when you pass away, we're not going to pay off 100% of the mortgage. The purpose of this policy is to pay for your mortgage for a period of time. It's going to give your loved ones time to sell the house, this, that, the other.
Right. Love that. Question from Sam is, how many appointments did you run a week to hit Hall of Fame in 6 months?
It probably averaged about 45. Some weeks, never less than 30. But especially right when I was starting, I was really bad in the home, like terrible. But I was really good on the phones, and I was very confident about booking enough appointments. And so, my whole mindset was, if Steven can close 9 out of 10 and I close 1 out of 10, I'm going to beat Steven, because I'll just book 100 appointments and, protect 10 families. So that was my mindset going into it. And so what I lacked in skill, I made up for in numbers. And so I was running, 45, 50. I don't think I've ever reached 60, but, and that was like consistently every single week. And then especially where I was at too, there wasn't a lot of lead flow. So constantly just traveling, I was gone quite a bit for those 6 months.
Love it, man. Love the Jim Rohn nuggets, makeup and numbers, with lack and skill. If we go 3 out of 10 and I'm 1 out of 10, I'm running 100 appointments a beat you. Love it.
If you guys aren't watching Jim Rohn, Jim Rohn's the guy.
Exactly. How many mortgage counties do you have locked out?
20, 25, 30, somewhere in there.
So how many leads do you actually get a month, you think? Because some counties are smaller, right?
I have somewhere between 20 and 30 locked out, but ones that are like actually like hot spots producing like quality lead flow. I'd say I have 4 counties that are like really producing good leads.
Right.
And then all of the other ones, I'm getting 1 here, 1 here. So those are all just ones that I'm doing virtually. I have like 10 in just the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin. I have, quite a bit in Arkansas. And so those kind of just supplement my weekly lead flow, where Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, typically I'm doing those virtual.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the best part, right? Is like when you're running face-to-face and you're looking at, a lead order purchase, and you're like, man, like this county only generates 3 leads a month. and this county only generates 6 leads a month. You're like, I can't run a travel trip. It wouldn't be worth it because there's not enough lead flow. But if you do run virtually, you can go do when they come in, I can hit it. That's one of the benefits, right? Because you don't have to wait.
That's one of the big benefits. It turns into lead flow per county into lead flow by day or by week. Right. And that's massive because it's literally infinite possibilities. You can have back-to-back appointments in Wisconsin, Arkansas, and Alabama, and you don't have to leave your house. So it's the lead flow becomes it's a whole different world when you're looking at it like that.
Right. Love that. Do you implement any live transfers?
No.
Got it. Cool. That was easy. Do you change your tone or consonants when you get in the home from how you are on the phone?
Yeah, in the home, I'm kind of talking like I am right now, where it's still just like very candid, and I'm a little bit friendlier, but I'm definitely not showing up to sell them anything. I'm not like, oh my God, Steven, that's what a great hat. Did you make that hat yourself, man? You should be a graphic designer. I'm not like hyping them up. I'm there to do my job. I'm obviously going to be a little bit, they're going to feed off of your energy. So I'm going to make sure that I'm not falling asleep at the table, or else they're going to be falling asleep. But I also want to make sure that, I'm posturing myself in the right way, which is, I'm a professional that's just here to do his job.
I love that, because one of the things, I only ran face-to-face. My Hall of Fame run, I took 3 agents out with me, which is really odd and none of them were on my team, which is really, it was even more odd. And all 3 of those guys were like, dude, like, I understand. And I was like, what do you understand? They're like, you sound like you hate your job. You're a disgruntled state employee. And that's why they buy, because you care less than they do. He's like, you care more than them because you want them to get the coverage. But when they show that they don't care, you match it and go, I don't care either, because you're not my family member. You're not my spouse, significant other, or son. So therefore, if I died, I'm good. But if you died, shoot, that sucks, and that's one of the things I can tell you. It's kind of like you said, it's a takeaway, right? I look at it like dating in a relationship. The person that cares the least is in the most control. And so when you are in the home, whether you're on the phone or face-to-face, it's very similar, right? The client's the clients that try to give you a show that goes, whatever, I don't need this, I don't care. The amateur in us, the amateur agent goes, what do you mean you don't care? You don't care about your family? You don't love your family? Like, now we get confrontational, right? The professional goes, yeah, I don't care either. Like, I'm not married to you. You know what I mean? Like, if I died right now, if I don't make it home today, my wife is good, right? But if you don't make it home today, Mary's screwed, right? Like, I don't care, right? And so that's the thing, is like, once you understand some of these concepts, and my tone is the same regardless.
And that's where having a lot of appointments will help too, is because, if I have 3 appointments for the day and somebody says no, I'm thinking in the back of my head, I have 4 hours with my next appointment. Let me just sit here with this guy.
Right.
But if I'm running 45, 50 appointments a week, I don't care. Like, Steven, you don't want to protect your wife is screwed if you die, but you don't want to protect her. That's fine. I'm out of here, dude. Like, here's my card. Call me if you decide that you want to protect your wife. But like, this is just really weird. Like, you don't want to protect your wife. Like, okay, whatever.
Right. Yeah. And I'm out. And I legitimately like, hey, sign a decline. I'm out. See you. Right. And so that's the posture, right? That you need to have. I think the posture is more important than the tone or whatever it is, because the other thing is, one of the biggest sales tips I can give you is mirror match. And what I mean by mirror match is like, if your client is happy, dude, I'm going to be happy. If my client is like low and depressed and talks slow, I'm going to do the same thing. Like, can you imagine you're sitting, this happens in final expense, right? You have a client that's elder and they're like 74 and they talk very slow. And we're like, yeah, so with this policy, like, that doesn't work. You know what I mean? You got to dial it back and match the tone. You have a client that's like younger, that's like a joy in life, that like, they're a light bulb, like they turn the light on and shine with everybody. Like, you match that, like you match the client. but you start off I hate my job. I'm a disgruntled state employee. And that's where the decision's made, in my opinion. So cool, man.
100%.
Well, Henry, dude, I truly appreciate you, brother. Like, seriously, thank you for hopping on for an hour and just sharing this with us. Like, there's so many people texting me right now in the group chat, whatever it may be. That's, the little word tracks, right? The one-liners, the verbiage that you use literally changes the game. You can say the same thing differently and has a different result. So, Henry, I truly appreciate you, brother. Seriously, Brandon Kitchings said thank you as well. And if there's anything that we can ever do to return the favor, man, please let us know. And dude, I'm excited to see, you smash it and, not just go Hall of Fame as a producer, but a Hall of Fame agency manager as well. So Henry, appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you for having me on, Steve. Appreciate it.
Yep. Hey guys, let's have a great week. Let's close out strong. If you haven't seen yet, new integrity partners announced today, Josh Crenshaw and Alondra Tapete. So excited. FFL is the place to be, man. Literally #best business ever. So appreciate you guys. Have a great one.